Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty interesting today, especially if you're the type who's always pushing for more, better performance in business, coaching, athletics, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And there's so much information out there these days, right? We're aiming to give you that edge without overloading you with a ton of stuff.
Exactly. We're going deep on one really powerful idea. Coach Padalecki's big on these small choices, the ones we barely even think about.
Right. And it's interesting how much this connects with what Abraham Maslow observed, with all those high achievers he studied.
Yeah, Maslow, he's the human potential guy.
Exactly. Maslow found this deep drive in people, this thing where he said, what one can be, one must be.
Not just like, oh, it'd be nice, but like an actual need.
Exactly. Like we're wired to grow, to become the best version of ourselves.
So for everyone listening, think about that for a second. What must you be?
It's not about what others expect. It's what's true for you deep down.
What makes you feel truly alive, like you're on the right track?
Mhm.
Coach Padalecki says figuring that out, that's the key to peak performance.
Absolutely. It's the foundation. And then he brings in this +1 or -1 principle.
So simple, but so powerful, right? Every single moment, we have a choice.
+1, you step towards that growth, towards that must be.
Or -1, you stick with what's comfortable, what's familiar.
And here's the thing. Coach Padalecki says, it's not the big dramatic events that shape our lives as much as it is these little choices, these micro decisions happening all the time.
They fly under the radar, but they add up, right? It's like hitting snooze instead of getting up and tackling that important thing.
-1.
Or pushing through for that last rep at the gym.
+1.
So let's bring this into the real world, like in a business setting. That leader who jumps right into emails first thing.
Might be a -1. Instead of, say, focusing on strategy and the big picture.
Right. Or a coach, someone who needs to give tough feedback to an athlete, but they're hesitant.
Avoiding that tough conversation, that's -1. Giving it, that's +1.
And for athletes, think about recovery. You could be scrolling through social media,
-1.
or you could be taking a walk, getting some fresh air, actually recovering.
+1.
And as Coach P says, it's the accumulation that matters. All those -1s, you're kind of stuck, not really moving forward. But if you're stacking those +1s,
You build momentum, you start seeing real progress towards that best self, towards those goals.
yeah. And this idea of stacking wins, it reminds me of that compound performance idea.
It's huge in sports psychology. You see it all the time. Small improvements in training, they don't seem like much at first, but over time.
They lead to huge games.
Exactly. And Coach Padalecki, he makes it clear this applies to everything, not just sports. Business, life, it's all about stacking those +1 decisions.
So, all right, let's get practical. How do we actually use this +1 principle? Coach Padalecki, he lays out a nice framework.
Starts with clarity. We have to define that must be. Really visualize our best self, how we act, what success looks like.
Right, get that clear picture in mind. And then it's about intentional choices, those micro moments throughout the day. Coach P says we got to pause, ask ourselves, is this a +1 or a -1?
Just that little bit of awareness before you act. That's where the magic happens.
And third, it's about compounding progress. We're not going for perfection right away. It's about making more +1 choices over time than -1s.
Consistency is key. And Coach Padalecki even gives us a number. He talks about aiming for 1% improvement every day.
Which he says works out to, what, about 14 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yeah. Small increments, but they add up big time.
And I like that it feels doable. It's not some massive overhaul. It's finding those little chances for a +1.
Like in the morning, for example. Instead of diving straight into emails, what if you spent those first few minutes on your most important task for the day?
+1 right there. Or midday slump hits. Everyone knows that feeling. Instead of just pushing through, what if you took a walk, cleared your head?
+1.
And then in the evening, we all do it. Mindless scrolling before bed. What if you took a few minutes to review the day? Plan for tomorrow.
+1.
That's not about adding more to your plate. It's about making smarter choices with the time you already have.
And Coach Padalecki really emphasizes this. All these small +1 choices, that's how you become your best self. It's not this overnight thing. It's a process, a journey.
So let's give our listeners a challenge for today. Coach Padalecki, he puts it well. Even 1% can feel like a lot sometimes. So let's break it down. What's one tiny action, one choice you can make today that moves you toward that peak performance?
Maybe it's making that call you've been putting off.
Right. Or maybe it's finally blocking out time to think strategically.
Or maybe it's taking that walk.
Exactly. You don't have to climb a mountain today. Just take one step That plus one step. Your best self, it's closer than you think.
Absolutely. And it's built one choice at a time.
So make that choice today.
So to recap our deep dive, we've been talking about Coach Ed Padalecki's work, specifically this idea of micro decisions, those plus one moments. They seem small, but they have a huge impact over time.
Yeah, and here's something to think about. What if you focused on those plus one choices every single day? How would that change things? Not just your performance, but your sense of purpose, of achievement, everything.
It's a really interesting question. Maybe try keeping track of your plus one moments for a week and see what happens.
And this is just the beginning. We'll be back with more deep dives on high performance and all that good stuff.
Looking forward to it.